series of 3CX reseller webinars. Many thanks to all of you for joining us, and we're going to make this as concise, as focused as we can this morning. So the last thing you want to do is hear a whole lot of blurb from me, Carl Baker, the Marketing Director at Alloy. I'll have a few comments to make in this opening introduction, and then we'll get into the main business of the webinar. So thank you for attending. A few housekeeping things first of all. Those of you who've joined us for previous 3CX webinars will be used to the routine in terms of audio, and it looks from our system as if you're all got your audio okay, but you can take your audio either in voice over IP mode from your computer system, or you can dial in to a telephony audio service via the dial-in numbers on the screen there. One for Australian attendees, one for New Zealand attendees. If you want to use PSTN instead of voice over IP for audio quality reasons, then just dial into the appropriate number, follow the prompts to put in your access code and audio PIN when requested. Your audio PIN is on your GoToWebinar dashboard screen that will have come up when you join the webinar. Second bit of the housekeeping duties. We will be answering questions throughout the presentation, the formal presentation, by chat service. So in your GoToWebinar dashboard, you will see that there's a box there called chat. Just use that to fire off questions to us about anything that's that you need some information on. A couple of our guys are on the keyboards ready to answer your questions, so they can be technical or to do with reseller activities. Just fire them off by your chat box when and as you need. After we've concluded the formal part of the presentation, we will talk about some upcoming events, and then to finish off the webinar, we will have a live audio question and answer session right at the end, and that can go on for as long as you guys have questions. Now the format for that is once we get to that point in the proceedings, we'll tell everybody that the Q&A session is open. I will moderate that for everybody. Those of you who want to ask an audio question live over the system, go into the attendee list in your GoToWebinar dashboard. You will see your name there. You can click on a little symbol which gives us a raised hand indicator, and I will cue you in to ask your question from there on in. So once we get to the end of the formal part of the presentation, we will run an audio Q&A session as well. Okay, so let's get into the webinar itself. As I said, I'm Carl Baker, the Marketing Director at Alloy Computer Products. And as you all know by now, we're a 3CX distributor for the ANZ region. I'm also joined as a co-presenter by Matt Gatilla. Matt is one of our account managers here at Alloy and also a 3CX certified engineer. Matt's been involved with the 3CX product for many years now. If there's anything he doesn't know about 3CX, then it's not worth knowing about. And Matt will be the guy who's actually doing the main body of the presentation for us today. On keyboards, we've got a couple of guys from our Technical Services division manning the keyboards to answer your chat questions. Scott Young, our Product Development Manager. Many of you all know Scott, been with us for a long time. And Adam Wells, one of our Senior Systems Engineers. And they'll be there waiting and ready for you to answer any of your questions. Okay, so what are we doing today? Well, the main part of the proceedings on this 3CX Tips and Tricks webinar is a presentation by Matt on a series of methods and techniques for configuring the 3CX telephone system to be a good, solid, robust and smart telephone system for your customers. And Matt is going to do something today that we haven't as yet done in any of our 3CX webinars. Matt's going to illustrate the points that he's making about 3CX tips and tricks by showing a live 3CX telephone system on screen, so you can actually see Matt undertaking the configuration methodologies that he's going to be talking to you about. I'm not going to go through all the various things that Matt's going to talk about now. I don't want to steal his thunder, but we'll get into that in a moment's time. After the end of the formal tips and tricks presentation, we'll give you some information about how to become a 3CX partner for those of you who aren't already a partner, and some information about up and coming 3CX events that are coming soon. Okay, so enough from me. Without further ado, let's get into the presentation for today, and I'll hand you over to Matt, who will take you through today's presentation.
Good morning all. Okay, hopefully you can see me through my little 3CX soft phone. I thought I'd show you, say yes, we can also do video. Alright, so at the moment what I'm going to do is quickly close this off, okay, and we'll get into this in a little later stage. Right, first up, I get asked this all the time, how do you configure 3CX phones, whether they're IP like Yarlink phones or 3CX soft phones. I mean, the easiest way to be able to do this is, hopefully you've deployed a 3CX phone system already, okay, and this is basically running on my personal PBX server. So I'm just going to log into the server and show you the available extensions. Because it's all web-based, you can access it from anywhere on the planet. Okay, so you can see all these phones that are registered. I guess the first thing that I would do for auto provisioning or configuring phones and extensions is to add an extension is quite easy. So we'll add an extension first. On the top of the taskbar you should see add extension. Very easy. Okay, so all you do is just click that button there. It will automatically come with an extension that it thinks you're going to add, but in this instance let's call it 111. What I'd like to do is also get one of you guys in the audience as a participant, if you could send us your email address and also your name, because what I'm going to do and attempt to do is also get an external extension to the PBX registered. Okay, so who'd like to be a participant? One of you guys, if you're on chat, if someone could shoot us through an email address and a name, I'd love to put it on and add you as an extension. Oh, David on board IT, Lachlan. Okay. All right, so let's use David. Let's go Halberg. What I'm going to do is copy and paste David's email address. I don't want your mobile number, David, because otherwise we'll harass you for the rest of your life. I usually like to change the ID the same as the extensions, just to keep it uniform. You will see the password. It's a strong password, okay, and also the PIN number will be different. There's reasons for that and security reasons. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the phone provisioning mode, okay. I know this is a 3CX soft phone, and because I've got tunnel enabled for remote connections, I will click that button. Okay. Now, under Other, okay, what you'll see is disallow use of extension outside the LAN. Now, if that's left clicked on, there's no way that I can actually get that phone automatically provisioned. So I'll need to uncheck that. And what I'll do for David is, so I know what he's up to, I want to record all calls. Okay. Now, what I'll also do for David, because he's a good mate, but he might want to use my PBX to make external calls, I'm going to disable that. So he can only call anyone or any extension within 3CX and not outside calls. I'm going to apply that, and you see that the information to configure the provision is there. All right. What I'm able to do now, okay, because I've set up David as an external extension, but he's not connected yet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to extensions. From this node here, all right, you can actually highlight David. And what you'll see in the right-hand side of the screen, right, you can send him a welcome email. Voila. So I'm sending him a welcome email. Now, previously, I did this as myself, as an internal extension, and I'll show you what the email message says. Here we go. It gives you a welcome email, basically giving you, for instance, I set up an extension as 104 with my personal PIN, and you can use this extension number with PIN to access your voicemail by just dialing 999. This is just a standard thing that it sends you. It also sends you a link to look at the My Phone portal, and I'll show you how that works later. Okay. If you work remotely, then it will send you also my public IP, right, with the port 5000, because that's the provisioning port. Further down the bottom, okay, it'll also send you two links. This is if you're in the office, right, which is the first one, which shows you a local IP, and the second one will show you if you're outside the office. Now, for instance, in David's case, David, just a quick question, you've got a 3CX soft phone already loaded on your machine? If not, can you open one up, please? Okay. I'll get into the 3CX soft phone because this is quite easy to provision. Okay. What you'll see is it will ask you for auto provisioning. If you're external, I really wouldn't worry about that at the moment, but what I will do is go straight down the bottom and press a little button that looks like an iPhone down the bottom and go directly to accounts. Okay, in this instance I've already got my 104, which is running on a Windows virtual machine from Parallels from my Mac. I can click the edit button, right, and what you'll see, I'm in the local office and it's basically displaying everything about my extension. Okay, now how I performed this was via the URL. So down the bottom you'll need to check perform provisioning from the following URL. And this particular, where you see my mouse highlighted, right, where you see HTTP, right, that's basically just copied and pasted down here, down this box here. It will automatically provision that phone, and you'll be an instant extension to the PBX. Now this comes in really handy if you need to speak to someone overseas and you want one-to-one conversation and basically only using your internet connection without going through any provider whatsoever. What 3CX has actually done, it's basically created your own SIP trunk. Now, if David's done this correctly, oh, by the way, David, if you're still there, if you go under Accounts, and we go to the Edit mode, make sure that you have got I'm out of the office checked, okay, and use the 3CX tunnel, please. Okay, back on hook. Now what I'm going to do is go back into the 3CX server and check the status. You can see that David is still not connected. Are you having some problems there, David? Right, while David's doing that and trying to get himself connected, because he's definitely allowed it might take a couple of minutes, but yes, he will be able to connect. Just double checking that. Alright. Okay. Right. I will see him come up, and you can see all the phones that are registered on the 3CX phone system by just going to the Phones tab. What I'm going to do now as well is quickly show you how provision an IP phone. Now the beauty about this is to see how it actually provisions, you can actually launch the interface of the phone. It will ask you for a username and password. And it will come up on the URL. From here, what you need to do, especially with a Yealink phone, okay, on the T28P, what you'll need to do is go to the Upgrade tab, okay, click on the Advanced section, okay. If it doesn't provision automatically, this is what you'll need to do, is go directly to the provisioning server and just add the path. We should be http:// for this instance 192.168.1.250, which is the IP address of the 3CX server locally, :5000 / provisioning. Okay, and then you can, I like to put to check for the new configuration file on power on, okay, and it will basically, I can also auto provision this phone right now via this node, okay, or let me go back into the 3CX server. I can also re-provision the phone from this tab here, and it will throw the correct settings directly to the phone. Here we go. And I can see David Halberg now is extension 111 and he's registered correctly. It usually takes about a minute or so because we're doing this over the tunnel. Now if I bring back my 3CX software now that David's actually connected, okay, we can also do this. Hopefully you've got your camera on, David. I want to see what you look like. Okay, so on this instance I can go 111 and call David directly. There you go, there's David. Long time no see. Great stuff. Thanks, mate. Gee, I'm glad that worked. But as you can see, David's up far north Queensland, and no problem at all. Okay. All right. Now, we've seen the IP auto provisioning technique. That's just one of them. We can also do this via a remote tunnel and using also the 3CX proxy server when we only use this when we're deploying multiple phones on a different site. That's basically going back to the 3CX server via the public IP. In those instances there, we would more than likely open up another port. Now, just to show you how this is done, if we go to extension 101, okay, and if we go under phone provisioning, you will see that the MAC address of the phone is there, okay, and you've selected the model type. Once you've done that, you can actually select the provisioning method. You can also select the interface. Right now, you can also select an interface, so it's your public IP, okay, and you can select the provisioning method. So you've got remote extension out of office with stun. This is usually used if you're only using one extension externally, but if you're using multiple extensions on the same site, then I highly recommend to use the remote extension with a SIP proxy server manager mode. So on the other side, one of the PCs would be running the 3CX proxy server. We can do this at another stage, but that's how it would be done. Okay. Another other thing that a lot of people that's quite new to 3CX, well, hang on a second. We'll do, is adding a ring group, for instance. Okay. So what you can actually do with 3CX, if you can see right at the end, okay, you'll see this tab come down. A lot of people don't see this. However, you can actually add an extension group, okay? Now, you can give it a name. For instance, let's call this one Alloy Ring Group. Okay. Let's add, why not? Let's add my iPad there. Let's add 101 there. And let's add that one there. Okay. Now, what you can also do, once you've added those extensions across to this particular group, you can also give them privileges of what they're allowed to see on the actual 3CX phone system. Things like perform operations on calls to users on this ring group. Okay, they can also, for instance, can barge into calls, listen in, call whisper. These are all pretty much management credentials. But what allow you to do, right, is give them personal rights of what these people are allowed to do, okay, on this particular queue. So what we need to do is go apply and OK. And under extensions, we should see an Alloy ring group. Under the management group, you notice I've only added a couple of extensions. Now, the reason for this is so these guys automatically have privileges. So everything's open to them, and they can do anything they want on the system and have a look at reports and all that type of thing. So they're excluded from not having any privileges. They've got full privileges. When you add a group of extensions, then you can modify what they're allowed to see and what they can't see. So the management credentials basically overrule any other rules within the 3CX system. So you can see this is pretty easy to do. One of the other things that I get asked quite a lot is how to add a digital receptionist and what its functions are. This can be achieved quite easily by just going down to the digital reception tab. Okay. By default, it will have out of office IVR, so when the office is closed, and it'll also have what we call a 777 pin protect IVR. Now this 777 pin protect IVR is only used if you have pin protect on that particular extension. So what actually happens is they'll need to dial 777 first, okay, and then enter their extension number and their PIN number. This will allow them then to be able to retrieve voicemail or make outbound calls. But let's add a digital receptionist. Okay, it will come with a virtual extension number. All right, we can give, for this instance, let's call a receptionist. Okay. We can redirect it to MS Exchange. In this instance we won't, because I'm not running MS Exchange. But what you can actually do from here is also record the prompt. If you have one already, okay, if you go to add, it will ask you from which directory. If you don't have one, right, then you can actually record a new media file, right? All you need to do is give it a name and call it receptionist. Say prompts. And now you can add the extension number from which phone you would like to record your receptionist prompts from. So I'm using a Yealink phone for this quick demo. What I'm going to do is just press extension 101, okay, hit OK. What will actually happen is the 3CX server will call 101 and you'll have prompts on there. I might put the speakerphone on and I'll show you exactly what it does.
Record your message, then press pound.
Hi, and welcome to Alloy. If you'd like to speak to sales, press 1. If you'd like to speak to support, press 2. If you'd like to speak to receptionist, please press 3 now. Okay, they should have saved it. It's an empty wave. We didn't want that to be there. We want to go add. Oh, I forgot to press star or hash at the end of it. So let me just do that again. Let me go to add. Oh, we want to record one. Let me do it again. Let me call it Digital Receptionist. Okay. We're going to use extension 101 to record this and hit OK.
Record your message, then press pound.
Hi, and welcome to Alloy. If you'd like to speak to sales, press 1. If you'd like to speak to support, press 2. If you'd like to speak to our receptionist, please press 3 now.
To save message, press 0. To repeat recording, press 1. Your message saved.
Okay. So that file now is saved. So if we go to add, there she is, or there he is, the digital receptionist. Okay. So for instance, this is where you take the actions and give the prompts to the person who's actually calling in. Okay. So if they press 1, right, let's take it to, let's go to connect to a queue. By default, it will basically go to the first queue, but we have other ones, so we can go to priority queue. If they press 2, let's go to the other queue, and let's call it, say, the priority queue. And if they press 3, let's go so it connects to an extension. For this instance, say we made, the MacCom mobile as the receptionist. Then press apply and OK. And that's your digital receptionist. Okay. Now, you've seen how we add, well, let's add a ring group or queues. Okay. So at the moment you can see a ring group which is called MacCom. It gives you a virtual extension number which is 801, and we can see the members of this. This is just a particular ring group. Okay. The most important thing here is the ring strategy. Most of the time when I like to use a ring group is for other things that we can actually do with 3CX as well. Things like Helios devices which have got door entry devices is one of the ways we can actually use a ring group to a really good strategy. So for instance, you might have an intercom at the front door with an electronic lock, and when people press that button, it can also, because it's zip protocol, you can get it as another extension via 3CX. So when it dials in, you will see the members, and the strategy is to call all. So no matter where you are, you can actually get to that phone and know that someone's coming in through the door. And then by basically hitting a hotkey, you can open the door and release it. I always use ring groups for simple installations of 3CX where they don't want queues or they don't want a digital receptionist. They basically want a call to come in and go directly to a ring group. This will basically ring all the phones simultaneously in that ring group. So that's one way to do it if you want to bypass the digital receptionist. And all you need to do is, for instance, just add a ring group, give it a name, and then add members. So for instance, I'm going to add, one up my Windows Mac, so my Bria as well. Okay. I'll show you how that works later. Apply and OK. Pretty simple. Now, a lot of people also ask me about how to configure call recordings. Within 3CX, in the actual management console, okay, if you go under General and you go under Global Options, by default, okay, the recording path will be at C : backslash program data, backslash 3CX, backslash data, backslash recordings. You can change that path to wherever you want within the network, okay? But if this comes across when you want to basically record every single call that you do, all right? This is where I highly recommend using like an external terabyte drive via USB, and all you do is just basically change the path, and that's it. One thing you'll also need to remember is on the actual extensions themselves is to enable call recording. Okay, the way we do this is if we go to one of the extensions, for instance, let's have a look at David. Okay, now we can see if we go under Other, okay, you will see extension options is record all calls. And I'll show you how you can retrieve those calls shortly. There's also another way that you can actually record calls locally, right, on a machine. And that's basically via the 3CX phone, okay. When you're on a call, okay, you can actually, that button there will record all calls on the fly. So you could be speaking to someone and all you need to do is hit that button there and it will record the call. Where it records the calls is under the application data of the 3CX phone installation. So it should be under, if we go, yeah. Windows 8 gets me every single time. Okay. At the moment I haven't got any recordings, but otherwise you will see it in the data. And you will see under IVR's recording, so I haven't recorded any calls from that. Another way to be able to get that recording, okay, is because 3CX is all web-based, okay. So what I'm going to do, just to show you exactly a little bit of the reporting on the side of 3CX and how you can access these recordings. It's going to go up to the web page, all right, and will be /reports. Okay, so now it will ask you for a username and password. If you have management credentials, which I have, I'll just basically log in as administrator. Okay, let's go to call logs. Why not? Let's go, yep, let's go for any. Let's show report. There shouldn't be too many. Oh, there is. Okay. Anything that's been recorded, okay, you will see it on the last tab, okay. All you need to do is click there, all right. It will play the file as a WAV. I won't play it at the moment because I don't know what's in there. However, if we see the one that we had the conversation with David, which should be probably on page 4, which should be extension. There he is. Let's play this file.
For this phone call, right? It's recording now. So you got just a one button press, or you said that you need a right click it? No, but all you do is basically go on your extension and you're speaking to the person for this phone call, right? It's recording.
Okay, so you can see that was a previous recording that was done straight up, and that was just by using that particular at that particular time. Now, while you've got the reporting happening, you can actually generate any reports you want. Okay, you can actually select one extension. So if you go to call statistical reports, if you go to extension statistics, you can select all extensions or put a range of extensions, and it will give you a full report exactly what that extension has done for that period of time. So you can see out of the box what 3CX actually gives you. There's no added on costs. I mean, this one here is with the system here is running with a call center module, which gives you extended queues and privileges, things like listen in and whisper, barge in. What I might also do is quickly show you the My Phone. As simple as that, just type in My Phone. Let me punch in. As you can see, this is loading up. This basically shows you everything that's going on within the 3CX server in the way of call queues, extensions, and ring groups. And you can also chat via this way. You can also do many other things. Plugins such as, Salesforce, Sugar CRM, Microsoft Dynamics, Outlook, and it's all web-based. Providing you have the provisions via the management console, whoever the administrator is, you can actually view all the extensions that are available. And you can see all the stats, who's logged in, who's logged out. This is pretty easy. Now, one of the great features that isn't marked on there is, for instance, how do we generate, let me go back to my phone. Let's set up a conference. I can ring anyone and everyone with a single push of the button. So these are all internal and external extensions. For instance, David would be an external extension. And I could also ring, for instance, an external extension. So I can ring my mobile out of this as well at the same time to start a conference. Also remember your outbound rules. So for instance, I've got a one for one particular trunk to get out. So if I dial 1042266 and go add, okay, it shows you that it's an external number, not an internal number, right? I can create, and voila, it's ringing all those phones at the same time. and it will tell you you've
Welcome to the conference.
pretty easy, isn't it? Imagine if you were ringing all these people and you had a big enough license for simultaneous calls. You could also, get it up to about 1,024 people at the same time. By just grab and dragging across, create the conference on the fly, and ring them all at the same time. That's one of the greatest features that 3CX has on top of any other PBX on the planet. I think I've reached my half hour. Thank you for listening to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any live questions, and I'm going to pass you back to Carl. And thank you for joining. Are you there, Carl?
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Sorry about that. Forgot to
That's right.
mute myself. Okay, thank you, Matt. That was a really informative session. A huge amount of material there. I will just take the opportunity to remind everybody we do record these webinars. So we will be posting a full recording of the webinar onto our Alloy website. Should be there by tomorrow morning. You will get an email to let you know that when it's posted. So if you need to go back over this material at your leisure and look at some of these tips and tricks, then you can do that by the webinar recording tomorrow. Okay, before we go to our question and answer session, let's just look at a few more points of information and some upcoming events. So first thing, those of you who aren't 3CX partners yet, you might well want to do that. On this screen here that you're looking at now, there's the URL on the 3CX website, www.3cx.com, for you to be able to become a 3CX partner. No real obligations there on becoming a partner, and it gives you some real benefits in terms of NFR licenses for resellers and the like. So and access to the partner program, to the 3CX support team, to 3CX training events, the partner portal. So there's a whole bunch of goodies there that you'll be able to access if you become a 3CX partner. Any of you guys who are really seriously considering reselling 3CX product, I would suggest if you haven't become a 3CX partner yet, you do that straight away. So there's the URL. Take a note of it. You'll be able to see it on the PDF version of our presentation tomorrow anyway, so if you can't get it now, you will be able to see it tomorrow. Some up and coming events. First of all, 3CX technical training workshops. Alloy has commenced doing technical training workshops. These are official 3CX technical training workshops. We're doing those now in Sydney and Melbourne in our training labs in those two cities. We've got a whole bunch of training sessions coming up through July and August. We are prepared to run these on a monthly basis, as long as there's demand there from resellers wanting to do the technical training workshops. Then we will run them in Sydney and Melbourne. You can see they have been pretty popular. We're actually running a Melbourne technical training workshop right now here in our office in Melbourne, which is pretty full. Next week's sessions in Sydney, the introductory partner workshop is full. The advanced has only got one place left, so any of you who want to get to the advanced workshop next week in Sydney, then I'd hop to it pretty quickly if I was you. Just bear in mind you need to do the introductory workshop to be able to go into the advanced partner workshop. So one space left in the advanced on July the 9th next week. Spaces left for Sydney in the week of 19th of August and Melbourne in the week of 22nd of August. The URL for making an online registration and seeing details is there on this screen. And you can have a look at the PDF tomorrow when we post it if you need to get hold of that. Okay, so final couple of event notifications before we go to our question and answer session. We're running our next 3CX webinar on August the 7th. This is maybe one of the most important 3CX webinars we've done to date. It's going to be regarding the 3CX phone system version 12, and we're going to use the same sort of format that we had this morning and give a live system preview of version 12 3CX. Now version 12 is currently in beta, but it's in very late beta. We understand, although 3CX haven't issued a release date as yet, the new phone system is going to be released very soon. So this is a really ideal opportunity for all of you guys to see a live preview of all the features that are in version 12. There's lots of added features there in terms of unified communications, mobile telephony, and a whole bunch of other things. Beefed up security for the system, and we'll be showing you all those things and more in a live preview in the webinar on August the 7th. The URL's down at the bottom of the page for that webinar, so hop on there and register us if you'd like to join us for that. And also on this screen you can see there's some information about a webinar we're running on Yearlink telephones, IP phones. Now this is a joint Yearlink and Alloy webinar, so we will be joined by a technical engineer and a salesperson from Yearlink themselves. They will join us on the webinar from Xiamen in China. And we're looking at the new T4 series phones. The first model of the T4 is out and available, and there are more models coming very shortly, later this month in fact for one of them. And these phones really do set a new standard in terms of price point and features that you get for your money. We believe they're going to be a real game changer in terms of how much IP phone you can get for your buck, and they'll be a really important option to be able to offer to your customer base. And remember, Yearlink are a long-term partner of 3CX. All their current phones, including the T4s as they come out, are fully integrated in terms of provisioning and the like with 3CX. So two really important webinars. We'd love to see all you guys come and join us for both of those. Okay, so finally our question and answer session, and most of you have been very patient and waited to join us for the audio Q&A. So just to remind you, if you've got a question you'd like to ask, just go into the list of the people who are attending this webinar in your dashboard, and just click on the raise hand symbol on your dashboard to signify to us that you want to ask a question. I'll cue you in and unmute you so that you can ask your question, and away we go. So any questions? Just hit your raise hand symbol and we'll bring you in. While we're waiting for our first question, Matt, let me just ask you, I saw a number of chat questions during the course of the presentation about using 3CX in VMware systems, and can you integrate gateways for analog devices?
Of course you can.
Is that
okay? I would say, look, I've run 3CX on smaller installations on VM. It's also how much memory, how much RAM, and how much CPU usage you allow that system. If it's only a small system, a VM machine is no problems at all. What you'll need to do is make sure that it's got a static MAC address, especially for registering the license. And the best gateways I've found to run with VM machines is Pattern. The reason being is it's an external device. It's not a card that plugs into the box. I really like the Pattern devices because they just work. They're solid. Price-wise, I think they are priced very well for what they do. And you can get these for primary rates or ISDN lines or PSTN lines. You can also get them as FXS gateways. If you're using a physical fax machine, then an FXS is fine. If they've got analog phones that they want to plug into 3CX, it will work. I don't highly recommend it because I don't think the quality is as good as an IP phone. But definitely with VM machines, always use an external gateway.
Thanks for that, Matt. Now we've got a question from Rolly. Rolly, do you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Good morning or good afternoon, Carl and Matt. This question is for Matt. I've got a question about digital receptionists and the way that abandoned calls are measured. I have an application currently where the client requires the digital receptionist to sometimes put the call through to a pre-recorded message. And I've kind of figured through some questions I've been putting up there that I could do it through a queue with an intro message, or perhaps to another digital receptionist with a message there. But the caller has actually been satisfied by that message. In other words, they might have called up and pressed 1 for a snow report, or pressed 2 for traffic conditions or something like that, and the recorded message has been played to that caller, but the last step in the call is hang up. So would that, in the call reporting, would those calls count as abandoned calls?
Yes. To elaborate a little bit more on that, the best way that I would do something like that is probably introducing what we call the VAD, which is a voice application designer. Okay.
Yes.
Then once you've established and put that together with 3CX, then you can point it out to the right virtual extension, okay, to answer that call, and it will show that call as answered. At present, because the digital receptionist has answered the call, we can see that the call has gone there. If it goes to, for instance, a queue with announcements on there, even though the call's gone in through the queue and they've heard the announcement, no physical phone has actually answered the call. So yes, it will come up as an abandoned call. However, to take it, that would explain it, and that makes perfect sense. To take it the next step further where you want to go, Rolling, you will need to play with a voice application designer, and that will fix that issue. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for your answer.
You're welcome.
Okay, do we have any other questions for any of you guys? Just click the raise hand icon on your GoToWebinar dashboard if you want to ask a question. Okay, we'll just give it a few moments more and see if there's any questions from any of you guys.
Yeah, is there anything else, any other questions I can answer that was been asked on the chat? Maybe I should start asking some questions.
Well, you can always put, oh, here we go. Glenn, thanks for raising your hand. What's your question, Glenn? You there, Glenn? Glenn, would you like to ask your question? Sounds like we're having some problems getting audio from Glenn. Glenn, you there?
I heard some tapping.
Glenn, just if you're asking a chat question, just ask through audio into your microphone.
Glenn's got no audio.
Okay. Oh, well, Glenn, if you get your audio working, although it's signifying here that everything's fine, but if you get it working, just raise your hand again and we'll come back to you in a moment.
Okay. This is one of the questions that I get asked all the time, that I can see in regards to what type of phones to use with 3CX. Pretty much anything that is native SIP protocol will work, okay? In the way of auto-provisioning phones, it only supported phones via 3CX. But saying that, if you're clever enough to be able to add a config file within 3CX, and we'll do this in the training, on the hands-on, on the advanced training, we'll show you how to import a config file for any phone and call it whatever name you want, and yes, you can push through and download that config file to as many of those specific phones or make and models that you wish. But 3CX, the ones that are supported by 3CX have all been tested IP phones.
So one of the attendees, Matt, was asking specifically about older Astra phones like the 480i. I'm sure they'll work, but have you ever come across any little tips and tricks about the Astra 480i, for example?
Yeah, well, let's have a look in 3CX. This will show you exactly how many, which phones are, and I believe the Astra range were supported. So let me just log into my 3CX. Okay, so let's go into, yeah, actually show my screen. Yeah, that'll be good. So I'm in my 3CX. Let's click on an extension. Let's go into phone provisioning. Let me select the model. Which one did you say was this? Astra
480i.
480i. No, as you can see, I can say just generic Astra. Okay. Providing I got the MAC address, we should be able to pull what we call a config file, which is an XML file out of the Astra, or a config file, and then put it on the right directory of 3CX. But to be able to do that, I'll need to log into the actual 3CX server. At the moment, only through the web console. Okay, but if I would like to log into the 3CX server machine itself, then yes, then I can actually extract something out of that Astra and save that file, and then put it in the directory of the configuration of the phones in folder, and what you'll see is that config file will come up. Once it's in there, yes, but in the way of phones, you will always know exactly which models 3CX supports by just dropping down this list. So they do quite a few, right from Astra all the way down to Yealink. The TipTel phones are actually Yealink phones for the European market, and you can see Slum on there as well, and Polycom, Cisco. So we've got a pretty large variety. But like I said, if we can extract an XML file from that particular phone, yes, we can actually generate a config file and put it in the file directory 3CX, and it will work.
Beautiful. Thanks for that, Matt.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I think oh yes, we've got Glenn back again now. Glenn, have you got your audio working?
Yep. You can hear me this time?
Yes, beautiful.
Right,
Glenn,
yep.
go ahead.
Excellent. My question was just with training. It says Melbourne and Sydney. Just wanted to see if there's any plans to do any in Brisbane.
Oh, I'd love to be there.
Yeah, that's it.
We all love coming up to Brisbane, Glenn. Look, we will take the training to any destination where there's enough people to make it commercially viable, in the sense that although we don't look to make money out of training, and these are free training sessions anyway, we certainly can't afford to do it if if it's only for a few people. So look, if any of you guys who aren't within striking distance of Melbourne or Sydney would like to see training come to you at some point, sooner or later, then best thing to do is to lob us an email or notify us in some way that that's what you'd like to see and exactly where you are. I might do, the next time we do a webinar on the 7th, I might do a little survey on that so that you actually get a form that you can fill out about training and where people would like to see training. We'd love to be able to do that. If we get enough people who want to do it in any given out of any given location like Brisbane or Adelaide or wherever, then we're happy to do that. So let us get to you, or throw us an email to let us know that you'd like to see that.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Just like to also say that since Alloy have come on the scene as a 3CX partner in Australia, I'm very happy with the added level of support with the webinars and everything that Alloy is bringing to the table.
Well, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that, Glenn. It's always great to get some positive feedback. And we've really enjoyed, as it happens, we've really enjoyed working with 3CX. The 3CX guys themselves are a great bunch of people. The product is really good. It's one of those partnerships that's a real joy to work with, and we get a real buzz out of doing this stuff. So we put a lot of work in on the webinars and all the rest of the stuff that we do, but we enjoy doing it. We totally intend to continue offering these sort of levels of support that we have been. And thanks for those comments, Glenn. Okay, so we have a question also from Mirjam. So Mirjam, if you'd like to ask your question.
Hello everybody, hi Matt. I have a question in regards to queue and yearling phones.
Yep.
And that is when you have queues and extensions using, in our case, T26s.
Yep.
And they are presented with a queue call, but then they do not answer. It's presented to more people than just one, and somebody else picks up. Then the phones which were presented with that queue call are actually seeing a missed call on their yearling display.
Yeah.
Is there any way that this can be disabled so that only missed calls from direct calls going on to their DDI are actually shown?
You know, that's a really good, and great to hear from you, Miriam. That's a really good question. I've seen the Yearlings do this not just with 3CX but in multiple different types of scenarios. I believe on version 12, I think there's a little fix for that. So it'll actually show you that the call has gone through and the extension, which ring group has actually answered it and which extension, without leaving a trail of saying, hey, your phone rang, but you didn't pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you mean.
Right now there is no, you don't know of any fix on how to solve this issue, because in the end of the day what happens with these extensions which are part of the queue is that at the end of the day they have, 300 missed calls.
Yep, I know exactly where you're coming from. I think I know just the right man to pass you over to. We've got a young up-and-coming engineer, a really good engineer actually on board, and he knows the Yearling product really, really well. Adam, can I dob you in? I'll get Miriam to send you an email.
Oh, that's all right. I will do that.
Yeah, Adam's very good with Yearling, and so's Craig in-house, and I'm sure we can come up with some solution. We could also request it from Yearling if that being the case as well, Miriam. So that's a very good question. I don't have the answer, but we can definitely look into it for you. That's not a problem at all.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And thanks for that question, Miriam. Sorry I got your name mispronounced there at the beginning. Let me just also say, Miriam, join us for the next webinar on August the 7th. I'll talk to Matt after this one and see if we can make sure that we have a checkout with the T26 and see whether that fixes there in version 12 that Matt just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So please join us for that webinar, and we'll see what we can do on that.
I try.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, David, question from you.
Yeah, I'm just interested in what the progress is in version 12. You mentioned that you think that one of the things that the missed calls on Yale phones, you also get exactly the same on Cisco phones. You think that's a feature that's going to be, we're going to be able to stop that in version 12? Wonder if you had any inclination as to where it might be, because we're running the version 12 beta at present. I just wondered if you might be able to give us a pointer so we can have a little play with it.
Are you there? Are you there, David?
I am.
It's Matt. Okay.
I guess it would be you answering.
Yeah. All right. I've seen some of the bugs on version on beta 12, and 3CX are quite honest about it on some of the things that they're working on at the moment on version 12. Okay. This has been one of those issues with IP phones and voice over IP PBXs for quite a long time. It's not a problem that's just occurred. It's actually been happening for quite a long time. What I believe the next step is to take it to the next level. I don't have the correct answer immediately, but I'm sure we can actually have a fix by speaking to both parties. That's the manufacturer and the PBX vendor. Okay. I think there's got to be more testing on that side done.
Yeah, just it's an interesting point that was brought up, and it's something that we are aware of, and we see it on both the site. We use a mixture of both Cisco and Yale phones here, and we see it on both of them. It was just an interesting thought as to if we can stop that, it'd be interesting. I'll have a further delve into version 12 and see if there's anywhere obvious, and maybe contact 3CX Direct and see if there's any pointers. But I mean, other than that, version 12 has got some wonderful features in it. And the reason I had an initial issue is I've got the version 12 version of the 3CX phone, which is why I couldn't get the connection. So I had to install the current version because it wouldn't let me connect information. Yeah.
As a rule, David, I will only use what's supported at the moment.
I know. I thought I'd get away with it, but it wouldn't let me.
No. The provisioning is a little bit different. But the wonderful thing that I've seen from the beta versions and the release of the 3CX Windows and Android phone is the full presence. So you don't have to have two web pages open. For instance, for my phone and a 3CX Windows phone. Everything you can see is all in the one application.
Yes, it is.
But running a version 12, it does run quite good. It needs a little bit of tweaking, and this is why we're waiting for the first full release prior to taking it any further. But thank you for your question.
That's right, and the beta release is really good.
Great.
Can I, it's Carl again, can I just say to you, David, and also to Miriam earlier on, issue with the Yearling phones, that's the first I've heard about it, but I will just say to you, we found Yearling to be highly responsive in terms of issues to do with bugs or new features or whatever, and some of us were over in Xiamen with them last week. They have some of the best turnaround times I've ever seen in 20-odd years in the industry in terms of cutting new code for firmware and the like. We will raise this on with them, and we know they work very closely with 3CX, and as well as talking to 3CX, we'll push this to the Yearling guys as well and see what we can do for you.
That's great.
Okay, so any further questions from anybody? Just a little bit conscious of the time for everyone now. and a number of people have left already. So I think it's probably getting towards the point where we should wind up. Okay, which we will do. So thank you everybody. Been a great webinar. Thanks to Matt for his presentation. In particular, thank you to all you guys who've attended this morning. We will send you an email when the recording for the webinar is posted. Don't forget the technical training. I've noticed one or two of you have registered while we've been talking at the end here. Don't forget the 7th of August version 12 webinar. That's really a must-see for most of you guys, I would think. And don't forget the Yearlink T4 product release webinar on the 18th of July. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you all again at the 5th 3CX webinar on August the 7th. Many thanks.